Hello, friends, Romans, country people. Good now to you. My name is Ryan Erickson here on Riffing with Ryan. I am so happy to be here with two very interesting and wonderful people who will talk about one of my favorite topics, change. Change. Let's see. About the balance between people and results. So I'm going to bring the two mystery people in here. We have Veronica Stewart. Hello, Veronica. And Roxana Radulescu. Am I Radulescu? Okay.
Perfect.
Well, perfect. Okay. So if you wouldn't mind, if both of you might take just a small moment to say who you are, why you're here, and what you want to have happen in this little domain. So who wants to go first?
Veronica.
Oh,
First.
course, me first in. Hi, everyone. My name is Veronica Stewart. Who am I? Well, I am someone that helps with business improvement. So going from strategic project management all the way to agile practices. Why I'm here is that I'm one of the group that's out there that is trying to help organizations improve, but we're seeing the friction that's happening out there today. We want to help the business, but there's some challenges when it comes to the people side.
All right, that's a pretty good summary. Very nice. Thank you so much, Roxana. We'll bring you at full screen, and you can answer the three questions on your mind, on my mind today. So here you go.
Okay. So I'm more on the people side. And that is where my background is learning and development back in my corporate days. I'm now in career and leadership development as a one-on-one coach and team coach and training facilitator. So I'm super passionate and interested in the topic of human behavior, especially when it comes to change. And so I'm just happy to be riffing today with the two of you on this topic.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Roxana. Where shall we go first? I'm curious as to what is most present in either of you. I think Veronica, you were kind of going through your vibe in our little pre-show here, trying to feel into the space. Roxanne and I were kind of laying back here, kind of letting you bring some energy. So I have a feeling that you might want to call the first tune and let us follow your lead for a moment. How you like that?
Sure. I'll let's experiment and see where it goes.
Indeed.
I'm gonna throw a tune out in the spirit of riffing. How might we? I'm gonna go with that a little bit. Is how might we balance the struggles that we personally might experience ourselves or we observe with others that are trying to do great work, but feel the pain in the process of it, not supported, feeling where there's fear inside there. There's a lot that's happening out there today with those that have lost their jobs or those that are lucky to still have one and they're not really sure how to act anymore because if they did, what would happen?
I can't help but get past the fear or get to that fear. Where is and what are you afraid of? Where do you see the fear in your conversations? And again, this is to either of you. Maybe how is that fear articulated in terms of what's happening in this balance and how does that present itself to you? Let's say Veronica first, or
Roxanne, I want to hear from Roxana because she's been doing a lot of research with others, and I think this is a good point to pass the note over to Roxana.
So there's One is fear. What I'm hearing, and it's funny because I've been doing a number of interviews with people lately, especially mid-career professionals, because what I'm looking for is to hear from them about the fears and the struggles. And somebody said, "Oh yeah, I love this idea because we're not hearing from the gurus; we're hearing from the people," and that's where I wanted to start. And I'm talking specifically a lot with mid management and mid career professionals. And what I'm hearing, especially for those who haven't lost their job, is the fact that when it comes to fear in the workplace, one of them is, which is pretty big, is watching their back, feeling that they need to watch their back, feeling that oh, what if I say something wrong, or what if what I have to say is going to be judged? It's going to be ridiculed. What if I'm going to feel humiliated?
Mm.
What if I'm going to feel ignored? What if I'm going to be ignored, and all of that? So that's the having to having to watch my back, having to worry about what people are going to think or say about me, rather than not having that worry
Mm.
and focusing on being creative on the job and feeling the flow and feeling that
Mm.
I can be in flow.
Mm.
So that when I hear that, I'm hearing fear of shame, fear of public shaming, fear of being shamed, and say, oh, that I'm going to be found out, that I don't really know what I say I know. I can't really do what I say I can do. Or if I can, you don't believe me. And I don't want to I don't want to put myself out there for fear of shaming. And I wonder if there's also again, fear of losing your job and your livelihood, and that, yeah, obviously that's, I mean, that foundational kind of fear, that security need. But
Mhm.
Mm.
I don't know, this whole idea of, have we how might we how might we calm that fear of shame? How might we have conversations, or prime whatever room we're in, whether it's with one or more, for vulnerability? So, and what kind of conversation leads to that and allows that shame to melt?
Mm.
I wonder.
Mm. Um, One of the things that Amy Edmondson, who coined the term of psychological safety, said in one of her latest podcasts on the topic is that our need, our default is knowing in conversations. I know what you mean, or I know what you wanted to say, or I know what you're thinking. I know what we have to do. That's the default that we seem to have, rather than learning, rather than asking a question, or rather than saying, okay, this is my perspective on the topic, what's your perspective on the topic? Or what might I be missing? What am I not getting? What else is there? So it's just creating the environment for a conversation to happen in the space of what Veronica said, let's explore, let's experiment, rather than absolute knowing. Because we know we can't know. Nobody can know 100% with 100% certainty. Yeah, okay, that's it. So creating that space for what we now call psychological safety, knowing that our default is going to be holding back, because this is what we do when in interactions.
Mhm.
And we would rather wait and see what's going on and how we can flex and adapt on what we see, rather than contribute directly. We need a little bit of a safety net to be able to start contributing.
You hit some couple of key words. One that sticks out immediately to me is the word certainty. And if we really think about right now, when we are trying to deliver and trying to get results, which in turn is helping with business growth, right? And targets. So think of just business, right? And that's part of the results management side of the equation of why we're here today and we're going to have a conversation, right? It's that part of it and the pressures that are happening. I call it 2024 is the year of survival. And either you are a company that are trying to bring your stocks up, trying to be more profitable, trying to, you see a lot of mergers and acquisitions happening right now, and that's their strategy for business growth. You have a lot of companies that are trying to be more innovative and bring in AI, and there's a lot of change that's happening no matter what type of business growth strategy that you have and what you're trying to prove to the public, either just as private or public type companies. And there's a lot of certainty around that aspect, right? So when we talk about most of the time when we talk about anything financial, there's a direct correlation to certainty, right? I think we can probably all agree to that. So there's a hyper focus on financials, either to make money or to save money right now. So now let's dial it back and start peeling that onion around certainty and think about like that Maslow hierarchy of people's needs. And there's another piece that you hit on, right? I think it was Ryan that you said when it comes to security. So we have as a business, we're wanting and needing security here in 2024. With all the other things that are happening that they're not really sure about. But the one thing that they can manage is probably the financials, right? Like as in how we are saving money and maybe making money, right? They're hyper-focused on that, i.e. some kind of result. Now, if you go into the human factor of it, of certainty, is I'm not sure how I'm going to be reviewed based on my performance. Or we've already had a couple of rounds of layoffs. I don't want to be the one on the list, right? So there's a lot of things that are kind of hitting around that when it comes to the conversation of certainty. It might not even, and this is where I get kind of curious of, is it really just shame that we're hitting when we think about that Maslow hierarchy of needs? We're at the foundation of that. The security piece of certainty that is really driving a lot of these behaviors that we're seeing out there. Now, I'll pause there because I'm sure a lot of you are getting squirmy and wanting to say something right now.
You can't control revenue. It's not possible to control revenue because that's talking about imposing behavior on somebody. What can a business? Okay, so I'm going to try and stop using the we and they stuff. I'm going to say what can a business entity control? Well, you can control your labor costs. You can control your material costs. You can drive down costs to increase profit by taking stuff away, right? And when there's always that threat, if I as manager, because I'm incentivized for profit, if the only thing I control is to reduce costs, what am I going to do? What is my incentive to eat that carrot and avoid the stick? Is to say, sorry, folks, you got to do more with less. Sorry, Papa's got to eat. And y'all, sorry, and so in that sense of, oh my God, did you move faster and faster and faster? You take away the space that people have, and that I can't be vulnerable. I've got to meet my individual goals. And it's not about us working together and do something and to try and create something that might work. It might not work. This experiment talk about, and it's not safe to fail. Right? Because I am in danger of losing my security as an individual contributor, because I'm getting pushed to do the only thing that I can control is spend. They're going to get rid of me. I'm a cost. My labor cost is in control, and that totally loses sight in Ryan Erickson's view of the world, and that totally loses sight in what's possible. that this situation of oh, we got to reduce costs. Well, what if? How might we experiment out there with something? Again, this is how you convince someone. You can't convince anyone. I can't convince. Yeah, that's a complete other kind of fire I have.
Yeah.
But
Aren't we in a room of game changers here right now?
Yeah, for sure.
Indeed.
What is? Why not?
I had to point it out.
It's the art of possibility, and that and how. I mean, I don't know, just that idea of what would the only thing a manager with financial authority in the traditional type of organization has is over how much money am I going to spend? How much money do I have? How much money can I spend? And how can I make the difference bigger? So please. So that was a partial riff and kind of, so, okay. Roxana.
Okay. So to the question, I love that question because it's always a question that I bring back in, I also teach a class on workplace culture and communication, and we all get back to, because people say, okay, but let's get down to business, because we've talked about communication skills and all of the people and soft skills, and I'm like, okay, so let's calculate. Let's see how much does it cost you to have people worrying about how an email to their boss is going to be read. Just see how much that level of uncertainty. That is if it's gonna take me 30 minutes to write an email to my boss that I could actually write in 5 minutes if I wasn't worried and scared that my boss is going to judge me and they're going to punish me or anything else. So multiply those 30 minutes by how much am I being paid per hour? For those half an hour, multiply that with how many people actually do that in your organization every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you're going to look at how much it actually costs you. Everything that takes you into overthink, that means overtime, and that means money. That means spending more money than you actually have to spend on the day-to-day.
Think about it, presentations. Now, typically, you'll have more than one person work on a presentation because they want feedback to ensure it's okay. And think about the number of hours that was spent on that presentation. Most of the time, it's only presented for 5 minutes at the most?
How many people work on each slide and go back and forth about this? And for what end? I've heard the term legibility recently about that. The whole reason that these kinds of communications, again, just the slide deck, we want to make what's happening in our team understandable, right? And to make that understandable to and so that the ability to say that here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, and we're green. We're green. Okay, we're green. So you can see, and what does green mean? And God, and so legibility. How much time is spent to say, oh, what's VP Bob going to say about this, and what's SVP Susan going to think about this, and so how might we phrase this? How might we wordsmith this or color this up so that it makes sense? It's legible, right? And this idea of legibility and trying to manage your own communications and hold back what you really want to say, which might be 10 times more valuable than this 1/4 inch square on my screen here. And I just, oh God, this makes me angry. The thing about legibility, and I thought about, well, why make something legible to someone who can't read? you know, and if you think, oh, they're not going to understand this anyway, but I'm gonna put this stuff in, and oh, is this okay? Is this okay? I mean, Veronica, you totally nailed it on the head. That basic thing of the standard deck that gets prepared for whatever retro or a stakeholder review meeting or God knows whatever. If only there was a conversation that could happen instead of that kind of moderation of one's own
Now,
conversation.
there's a lot of value to have information so you can digest it to have a good conversation. I mean, that's why what's the actor that created the app for board members in order to save time? Edward Norton, I think he's from Canada. Is that him? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So obviously, if they're creating things at that level, there's opportunity and insight to understand, hey, information is important, and for allow people to digest it in advance, to have the right conversations in a little amount of time to get to action. I appreciate that. And again, I'm trying to balance as in our conversation between the people focus and the results management. The opportunity is definitely how can we go about saving time to focus on the right things. So part of when we're riffing here today is probably some pragmatic tips for food for thought for people. But I'm also balancing the fact is a lot of feedback that I've even gotten is, well, I haven't had time to even research ways to actually optimize and save my team's time or anything like that, right? But however, there might be people in the company that focus on continuous improvement. Hello, are you out there? That you could be doing that to help those folks that are actually doing work, right? If you are trying to find opportunities to bring value in the given moment. Not to say that you're not doing that, and I don't want it to come across wrong, but it might be a shift in what you originally were doing. Instead of doing a process mapping workshop, maybe the most immediate thing is, hey, could I maybe introduce quickly this AI tool that's going to be productivity that could write user stories real quick for you? Will that make your life better and make you smile, right? Like, what a great day for that one human being, right? I'm just throwing these things out there. Now, however, let's get back to the people focus part as we're balancing both of these things. Because I don't want to just be like, hey, people, oh, gripey today. There are some tangible things.
I want to be gripey, but okay.
No, you know what? We're not the only ones out there doing this. And I would love we have a couple of things, and I know you have something, Roxana, to kind of show some practical ways to look at it on a people focused side, and then we can balance it because that's the whole point, navigating, right? People focused leadership and the results management. I'm saying, okay, now you have this, what about this side? So we can meet in the middle. What say the two of you?
So that's and actually, Ryan, if we can put up that psychological safety and team effectiveness slide on. So this is something that I also did some team coaching gigs with my co-coach, Tracy Vilk. If Tracy, if you're watching this, hello. And one of the things that we discussed with teams was the psychological safety and why that matters in teams. And I will say it's not a one size fits all. It's not the fixed pill that teams can take. But here's what it has to do with team effectiveness. When we talk about psychological safety, people think, oh, well, yeah, but we're at work, so people better be adults and do the work. And why do we have to care about that? Well, if you want performance and if you want team effectiveness and if you want those results, then caring about psychological safety and having a high level of psychological safety and a high level of drive and accountability, that is what's going to take you there. Because otherwise, it's gonna be either anxiety when we have people are accountable, but they don't feel that they're safe in their team. They can't share, they cannot share, especially mistakes. So that drives a lot of anxiety. And one thing that, and I'm quasi quoting Amy Edmondson here because I don't remember the exact quote, but she says that she's getting the question of, well, doesn't fear motivate people? And she answered, yes, it does motivate people. It typically motivates hiding. And I agree with that a lot, because how many times do we see people with, even if people are driven and accountable, but if psychological safety is missing, they're not going to share. They're not going to want to share mistakes or opposing views. They're not going to publicly disagree. So that brings a lot of anxiety. And how can we come up with creative solutions when we're anxious, or with apathy when there is no drive or accountability and no psychological safety? The same thing. Like, people are going to say, how many people are you hearing right now saying, well, I'm just going to do my job, I don't care, and talk about quiet quitting? That is where apathy is. Like, it just blooms. Like, that's quiet quitting. And then with, you get a high level of psychological safety and a low level of drive and accountability in the comfort zone. And some of the teams do need a little bit of stay in that comfort zone after all of the changes and trials and tribulations that they've been through. But just make sure that you don't keep staying there forever, because that's not where
It's like hiding in your room and watching a good movie for the rest of the night, right?
Exactly. We're in warm, fuzzy waters, but what else is possible? And in that comfort zone, that's where learning is not going to happen, experimenting is not going to happen, and high effectiveness and productivity are not going to happen. And potentially our competition is going to just fly past us at some point, because we've been swimming in warm waters.
Have you, with some of the conversations, has it come up, the correlation between psychological safety and time?
Well, that is what we were like. The more, just think about it, how much quicker you can solve a problem if you know that it exists, versus when you don't know that it exists. And I think, but we've had that with the Toyota model, where the leadership at Toyota was saying to their managers, how's that for psychological safety? They were saying, we know you're doing a good job, that's why you're a manager, so we're not questioning that. And I don't need you to tell me all of the good stuff just because you want to get the appreciation and the laurels. What I want you to tell me is what the problems are, so that we know, and then we can fix them together sooner rather than later. That is what, and that was the clash of culture, where you would have some manager coming out, everything is breezy.
It's all green. It's all green.
Rainbows, exactly. And they were like, no, we know you're a good manager. So that is out of the question. We're not questioning that. We want to know, what are the problems that you're confronted with right now that we can solve together? And I think that is, how much time does that save?
But it's the time also, right? I'm picking at this thread because it's contentious out there, right? You have, problem solving helps remove pain, which change creates pain, right? And you're trying to find a way to solve it. So with all the changes that are happening to people, you have to have time and the psychological safety to solve for it, to remove that pain. Otherwise, the pain will exist. And new pain might come about when you have new things that come abroad, right? Like, so it just becomes the epitome of stack the pain.
How much pain can you handle?
Yeah, but I'm trying to show the pattern of this. And is it me, or is my view like, do I look really fuzzy?
Yeah.
It's
You
like
got,
my
you have a
camera
nice
fuzzy.
sheen. You got
I
a little
know.
bit of a nice haze. You could take the Vaseline off the camera there.
I know. I'm like,
Okay,
I'm gonna
better.
go and hold on. Let's see here.
I love it when
Is
this
that better?
happens live.
Ah,
It was bothering me. I'm like, why do I look so fuzzy? But I'm gonna have to get over it.
so now, so do you look fuzzy now?
Oh, you had to put me front and center. Anyways, I had a lighten the mood. Yeah, but it's definitely connecting the dots. It's systemic, right? And that correlation between psychological safety could be compounded. We obviously listed a couple things, right, that could create that. Then we have problem solving and the time around that, which removes pain. And where we are where we are with that one as we continue on that, just kind of curious, right? So if we never remove the pain, what's happening in the system?
Stagnation, atrophy. It just you get flabby. Right?
Flabby.
Yeah, I mean that's the organizational flab, right? So this also ties in nicely. So let's assume you're a great manager. That's off the table. You're a great manager. So now the fear is calmed down. That okay, so the cortisol level's down. Okay, so all right, we'll look at the problem. Okay, so now we see the problem. Now then you switch into that performance mode, right? This is where, okay, so we're playing Mary Had a Little Lamb. Great. You know your part, Roxana. So I'm all right. How long can you play Mary Had a Little Lamb before you say, I want to do something important? I would like to up the level. I want to up the challenge, and I want to use my skills I would ideally like to use the skills to their maximum, as much of my skill as I can. You, Veronica, and you, Roxana, to use your skills as well. Us use those skills together to face a nearly insurmountable challenge, right? That's the flow quadrant, right? Then we talk about the psychological flow quadrant. Psychological safety, I'm going to put a lid on that because I think that's a conversation. I'm kind of a skeptic of that because psychological is about me, sociological is about we, I think. So that I think is another thing. But if we have either of those, if there's this feeling of safety and then, okay, all right, I'm bored. I'm not using my skills. We're not having a challenge. Okay. So we found the problem with our slow brain. We did our slow thinking. And then now it's time to up the skills. If we utilize our skills with a great challenge, then we can create value and get the R word. That was the other part of this conversation, is the results, right? So when is it okay to allow the spikes to happen, to say, who gets to flip the level up, and how do you do that so that the whole team doesn't lose the beat, and that I think we're talking about the balance, right? So, okay, so we've effectively solved the people problem for a moment. We have that. What's the next conversation? Where's the scale tip to say, let's level up and go produce something and create love in the world,
I don't think we'll ever solve the people problem forever. Maybe
just a moment, just for a moment.
No, because new pain gets introduced.
Exactly.
So the breath, you breathe out, right? You can only hold your breath for so long. And okay.
But
right?
even
Okay,
going from the Mary Had a Little Lamb all the way to, I don't know, the Beatles. I mean, okay.
Rush. Going to Rush.
But I find that they're like except for the Rolling Stones and U2 and a couple more bands who are still together and have been together for a while. But that's not to say that they solved their people problems, but just
They just know they make a lot of money when they get together and play.
Yeah. But I think the whole point, I think you find a team that and it's just, forming, storming, norming, performing, and a journey. At some point, you're going to have people discovering something more, something else that makes them tick, something else that gets them into flow, something else that they're passionate about. And that doesn't mean that, so we're going to function as a team for as long as we can, but we don't have to function as a team forever. If we can get some models with us as we're parting ways, that would be beautiful. If at some point down the line we get to intersect again and work together in a collaborative, that's even, more beautiful. And I think that's the beauty of at least, acknowledging what people are bringing to the table, acknowledging how we're different and how we can work with these differences rather than have the differences work against us. I think that's the balance. If we can find that balance, then we can actually work it out.
And different isn't the physical and aspects of what a lot of people, when we say that diversity, different is also all of us, even though I know we're game changers, are very different in how we show up. But if you notice in the way that we talk and the way that we contribute and get to action is the same. Now, if we mix this conversation up with someone that was a little different than us and challenging that, this conversation would be different. I'm using different a lot. Different. And but it's true. Oh, putting a different hat on. But where you go and how you contribute and make an impact is the diversity, is my point. And when you look at what we want in people and especially the results that we're trying to get, there's a lot of times we get put in a box. And if we don't fit that box, it's who is going to feel the brunt of that most?
Oh,
that's a good question.
Depends on the box, right? Depends on what kind of box, and depends on who's putting it there. I detest the box. I don't want the box. I don't want to climb in the box.
You would detest the box.
Yeah.
That's a game changer trigger. But anyways.
But and at the same time, there's without constraints, there is just then it's just total flab. You can't put water, you pour water just on the floor, it goes everywhere. It's nothing. You can't drink. You could lick the water off the floor, I guess, but the water has to be in glass, right? And so the constraints, the rules of the game, and even as a game changer, purple squirrel kind of thing, is that, I want to fly around the edges, and I want to push the boundaries and create a little pain here and there, that creative tension. We that term, I think, also plays into here. So that value doesn't get created without doing something new at some point. And that there's the creative tension, and that's at the edge of the box. So, And
you know where I'm going as you're pausing your hums in a moment, is that again, remember I said 2024 is really the year of survival, and results are extremely hyper focused to whatever that means, right? It can mean a little bit different, but at the end of the day, if you're a business, it's i.e. deliver and make and ultimately be profitable, right? If you're a nonprofit, you still need to deliver, and the people that are donating and how you are existing, you need to make them happy so they give you more money regardless.
Yes.
So with that said, there's a hyper focus this year to show. So when we talk about creative tension and creativity and the space for it, right? So creating space for creativity right now, how much is that happening so that new ideas or ways to actually solve a problem and remove the pain is happening? And kind of going back to why I was asking my question about, like, the stacking the pain part of it, is that it's compounding. So where are we? We're going into May. So we are almost halfway through the year this year. When is it going to snap?
When does the pain become too much to bear? Is that what you're asking?
I'm very curious. It will be tolerated up to a certain point. I don't know. This is where let's play in the space of uncertainty, because no one knows. No one knows when it comes to humans what's going to end up happening when they have choice more. Now, we always have choice. I know someone's going to say, well, Veronica, everyone always has choice. Well, yeah, they might be choosing to survive right now.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you opted into the rules when you signed that employment agreement. You have to play by my rules. So you don't like it, hit the highway, right? I mean, that's
easier said than done, right?
Well, that's the argument I see when that's the yeah.
But let's go back to apathy in your diagram, Roxana, because what ends up happening a lot, and those will keep driving. Sometimes some people are very tenacious. They really love on the edge and they love the results, right? They'll just keep chucking away. We know that energy, right? However, it gets very pragmatic. And then there are some groups that are saying, you know what? What's the bare minimum that I can do that I still will look good? No, I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And and this is where, what are they doing outside of when they leave work to be fulfilled? Mm-hmm. Where the energy has to go somewhere, right? The law of physics.
Mm-hmm.
But that's exactly why I don't understand when we talk about results, as if it's either people or results. It's either the focus on people or the focus on results. When clearly, if I have people who are in apathy every single day, that's clear to me that they're not going to contribute to the level that they can contribute and potentially even want to contribute. But they feel like, okay, I wanted to contribute 100 times before. You've ignored me, so I'm going to stop contributing, because why even bother? And I hear that a lot in the conversations. So, and people do care about their results. They do. That's why it's very inspirational to me to be in these interviews with people and hear them, how they are thinking about the issues. They are thinking about the results. They have anxiety that they cannot get their sales to the level that they know they need to have the sales by the end of the year, because of course, like, it's going to matter to them, because they're going to be incentivized based on that as well. So they're trying to figure things out, and at the same time they're being ignored. Like, one question that I'm asking in the interviews is, what is one question that you wish your leadership asks you and they're not asking you? And when I ask them that, I got one beautiful question today, and I just took notes because I wanted to share it with you. So this was a person who wishes, they were asked, what needs to be true in order for us to be able to achieve this? I thought that was like, when she said that, it was like, what needs to be true for us to be able to achieve this? Because we're looking at results, but how can we create the conditions for those results to be met, that we can actually achieve them? because sometimes, and it's that lack of alignment, those unrealistic expectations from people who are on the ground, boots on the ground, in the like they're in the to-do mode,
The musicians on the stage, if you will.
right? And then you have people who are the higher level ups who don't know what's going on there, but then they set the expectations. But then when I'm looking to talk to them about what I need from them to make those expectations a reality, they're not listening. So
now that dynamic is even interesting. Where have you, and just trying to, get some data points here. I'm a little dork here. Is that most of the people that you talk to are full-time employees?
yeah.
So I would be very curious of what that dynamic looks like for contracting, because who are they going to talk to? So there's different dynamics. You could be a full-time employee contracting at a company, or you could be staff aug and you are really just there. Now let's do the first one, right?
So
Oh, go ahead.
It was interesting. It's not contracting, but it was somebody who used to be working full-time in one organization. Now they're not working in the organization, but they're a consultant for the organization, who said now they're listening to me. When I was an employee, I was saying the same things. They
didn't have to listen. They didn't have to listen.
Exactly.
Yeah, that depends on how you come in. Are you an advisor, consultant, or are you a extension?
You a pair of hands.
Yeah. But one of the things it's interesting is you're talking to the full-time employees that are trying to connect, right, and do the right thing. There is a sea of contractor workforce that's out there that are even more removed. And their contracts might be they are not getting paid unless they deliver. So what kind of behavior is that creating? Or you are in an engagement and you don't even have direct conversations a lot with the people leader.
You're not allowed to. It's illegal for them to have performance conversations with you.
But you see where I'm going with this. Now I added a whole other curveball to the conversation. And so it'd be very interesting in companies if we had the ability to kind of take a poll of, would it be job satisfaction or however you want to term it, right? In the correlation to where a company is financially and the construct of the workforce.
That
I would really love to see
employee contractor mix is what you're saying.
Yes, I would love to see that and see if there's a direct relationship between the results, right? And results, I'm going to say, is, are they profitable? Let's just get to the nitty gritty. Yeah. Who cares about like that in relation to what's inside under the hood in that aspect, right? Because I am curious if you have, is there a difference between the contractor and full-time employee, or no, or the full-time? So when you're talking to all these people leaders, what does it look like for all the contract workforce, right? Sometimes they're answering to people leaders within their company, or you have contractors that don't really have much to answer to, right? Like they're just there. And they're extremely expendable if they don't deliver. And how many of them are? So when we go back to the conversation of psychological safety and being people-focused leadership, what's that dichotomy and where they sit in that spectrum, right? Because is it 10 times worse? Is it the same? Right? I'm very curious.
Well, I'm not going to get a lawsuit filed against me if I fire the contractor. You know, if I have a harsh conversation with the contractor. But if
you can get rid of them that day, no problem.
Exactly. So that's the totally.
I've been in that situation.
Offloads it. Yeah, I got fired 5 days after I got a cancer diagnosis. So I get it. that there was no care for me in the contract or the client. So
The
I
easy
get it.
way around it is they lay off people.
Yeah, it's just, and that's and the last man on the totem pole, last person on the totem
Wow.
pole. That is a very interesting question that we're talking about. Oh, I'm going to hire a hired gun who's got all the skills. I don't want to invest in the talents. I don't want to invest in the people that I have. I want to get results fast. So I'm going to go in the market and I'm going to find, Johnny come, Johnny come machine learning large language model expert. And I'm going to bring that person in and I'm going to say, dude, you got to bring it and give me the results I want. So, and that's, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but that just feels like a cop out. And then you care not for that person's humanity. I'm buying a pair of hands. I'm buying a very good pair of hands. But I don't care about whether your hands are going to be falling off at the end of the day. So,
I don't think you're gonna get even then. You're not gonna get 100% out of them. And it really will depend on that person's personality too. But they won't be with you 100%. And I think that kind of behavior where you treat your employees one way and the contractor another and the hotshot another way, like it's at some point you're going to end up treating everyone the same way simply because this is what has been giving you results and this is the behavior that you used to. I think like this is where it comes down to if you've always done things that way and you're not willing to try a new way of doing things and treating people, you're going to end up treating everybody the same way. Even if maybe the beginning is going to be warm and fuzzy, but by the end of that relationship, you're going to end up treating everybody the same. And actually, one of the things, because you wanted to get into the nerdy stuff. One of the researches that I did when I created the Leading with Kindness modules, it's actually, and we were talking about leading with kindness, but that is where research says that kindness has the power to increase sales, motivate people, improve creativity, boost well-being, reduce attrition, drive higher customer loyalty, and lower marketing, recruiting, and training costs.
We believe it. You believe it. I believe it. Veronica, you believe it. But
nobody else does.
Well, who's did?
But one of the things is that there are a lot of people that do believe it, and they feel their hands are tied right now.
They want. Yeah. Okay. So you're nodding yes to that, Roxana. Okay. Yeah. So the conversations have borne that out. So we're back to fear again, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. Funny, huh?
Yep. Yeah. All leads road and if you think about fear, right, it comes in different things. There was a book that I really loved around insecurity and what drives a lot of that fear, right? And it goes back to a lot of, it's not going to fix people's problems right now, but it's definitely a food for thought, right? I think about it all the time personally is what creates that fear right now when in my work. And it always goes back to two things, right? And it could be different for everyone, but one is always the financial aspect of it, how secure you are in your finances so that you do have freedom of choice. We're never really taught in school how to be more financially sound. It's not a curriculum in school to teach you. So either you're raised or you have a really good mentor, or when you grow up as an adult, you wise up and you fix your stuff. Okay. And then the second thing is your identity and how you see yourself, right? Again, another thing that isn't necessarily always taught in school and maybe not, when you grow up in parents, right? They come from the same system. It's cyclical. All these two things that I'm mentioning. It's probably why I'm very extremely passionate about education, because I'd like to get to it early. What we're talking right now is the adults.
Aren't we also, we're talking about, so there's, so some folks, don't even, if you go to an undergraduate degree, you don't even learn it through 4 years. And then the folks who maybe, well, with finance majors, okay, so I'm kind of talking out of my there, but I think the business schools have a lot of accountability that they've kind of washed their hands of, so we're producing folks who ascend into top management, who learn how to do to manage capital and do all the crazy accounting to reduce cost. And that when are folks taught how to in the management schools? Maybe this is a Cliff's article. Maybe in that world, it's they are taught how to listen to people in MBA programs. Those they are taught. They're not taught how to behave for results. That didn't ring true to me, because that's not what I've seen in the world.
Mm.
So yeah, come on. I don't want to take another 10 minutes figuring out what the point I want to scream at there. So Roxana, I think you wanted to hop in.
So that's the divide between what we teach people and then how we expect them to work. And it's like, that's my, that's been my frustration all along, coming from the learning and development world. Like, you send people to a training course because you want them to get fixed, and then you bring them back in the workplace where they have no chance to apply what they learned because the environment is the same. And I heard people, so one of my former colleagues who went to an MBA, and I still remember he said, I thought I was going to learn about business. I learned about people in my MBA program. And now, then you go into the workplace where the business is not about the people.
You learn it, but you can't use it. The practice of management, it becomes a practice of inhumanity. Oof.
Yeah.
But well, let's look. I love history, because was that always taught? And when did it start changing? And who's in the system already by design that's creating that friction, right? And you and I have talked, on Game Changing Work for several years about the generations. And it's not to say that a certain generation doesn't care about people, but it's more about the changes of what's happening when it comes to the people centricity is what I'm getting at. And as old factions move out and new starts to move in, there's more of a focus around that people centricity that's happening today. I can guarantee most of people that probably went in the 90s to MBA school probably have a different experience than those that are going today.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think you're right.
So that's why I love watching the cycles with history and how it's kind of evolving in that, because we have to kind of match up workforce in this learning that you're talking about, right?
Yep.
And so what? I'm already in the workforce. I go to a class, I learn something, i.e. Agile all the time. Do you think people learn Agile and they come into the workforce and they can't apply it because the system doesn't work with it, right?
It hasn't changed. The system hasn't changed, and they're not allowed to change the system. Just work with the system.
So it's in conflict at times.
Yeah.
So I guess where I'm getting at is part of the learning and doing have to balance with each other. So if we think about the people-focused leadership and those that are doing it, yay. That's awesome, because you are in the sphere of influence to actually not only learn, but do at the same time without limitation.
Yeah.
They say without limitation.
And I'll say the ones who do it most of the times do it just because they want to do it, not because they expect any rewards or promotions, or they expect their company to suddenly,
Because it brings them joy.
it brings them joy. They don't do it for the extrinsic rewards. They do it because it's their intrinsic motivation.
Now that's kind of okay. I'm going to say my biased opinion on that. Like, that's just crazy for you to want to be good to another human being and expect something in return.
There you go.
What the hell's wrong with you?
There you go.
I'm sorry, I had to say it.
Quid pro quo, right? So that's, oof, boy, that's a 40-gallon barrel of worms there. Oof.
Now I'm gonna not want to believe that's the case. I really don't want to, and that's why I'm gonna put my blinders on and live in my fairy tale land to not believe that a human being is going to be that way for the incentive. That's awful.
Well,
I said I was going to put my blinders on.
Well, so I've been called, the Pollyanna, the Lotus Eater kind of thing, that whatever. But I'm not going to believe that and people will say, there are assholes out there. Yes, there are assholes. They exist. Not as many as you think. And that the behavior of the bad actors, it comes from somewhere. Right.
Yeah, most of the time.
And that selfishness comes from somewhere, comes from pain. Hurt people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, why can't we just get along, everybody? And why can't we just get along? And this, again, I think this, and to me, this is partly why I scream and yell every week or on the Beta Codex thing, is about that the system of work, the system of hierarchical, incentivized command and control, it is built to create fear. It is built to coerce. It is, and it is the way that has been taught. And even people-centered leadership or human relations, which is a sham, by the way, those things, even that, it's attempting to grease the wheels of a machine that is designed to run over people.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, education systems that way. I mean, if you really think about it, like with grades and how all that works. I mean, where it starts early.
In kindergarten. It starts in kindergarten. Stand on the red circle and you'll get a prize.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
And if you don't, you'll get bong.
Yeah. Make a mistake. Make a mistake, you'll be punished.
Oh, and you only got a 95
on
that
F.
paper.
You get an F, Roxana.
Well, where's
no
Roxana? Roxana, you only got a 95. Where's the extra 5 points? Right. Or you only took 3 AP exams instead of 4. And where does it end? Okay.
You're no longer in the honors program. You are not meeting up to quota.
Yeah.
And those that you're not getting the results. You're not showing that you're getting the results in your education. The grade point average, you're not. What kind of results? So, and what kind of results are those? Are those results that are holistic for, people, planet, purpose, all that kind of stuff? No, they aren't. And you talk about getting back, to the education of folks. And that's, boy, where do you spend your time and attention? Do you spend the time and attention with folks who are already in top management, in positions of authority, to try and influence those folks to show their humanity and be a model for vulnerability? You can. Or do you say, I'm going to be an agile coach, even though those don't exist? Watch Thursday. So you're saying, I'm gonna do my best with these 3 or 4, these 30 or 40 people, and tear my heart out for them, and do my best, or or do you take the $35,000 a year and go teach 6th grade at your local elementary school and hope that you're planting seeds for human beings who care about each other, So,
and I don't want to say that like people at the top don't care. I think that would be wrong to say.
No, managers are people too.
Yeah,
managers are people too.
I think sometimes what I've noticed and what people have said, right? There's this disconnect of when you start growing so big, right? That you are putting the trust in other people to carry the ball forward. And you're trying to do these other things. And that's where sometimes that disconnect happens, where you think X is happening, but Y is really happening. And then it's hard to kind of circle back when the damage is already happening and you're already in flight and you have to keep moving at the same time and then try to do corrective measures. It's not as easy, especially if you are large at scale is what I'm getting at, right? More problems to deal with that. You're not as nimble. So if you're a startup and say, for example, say a CEO made a mistake, right? They're human. And they want to correct that, it's probably a lot easier to address it than being a large company to address. Now, you might argue and say, well, what stops them? Well, there's a lot of things that could stop.
They lose their card to get into the executive bathroom.
But
whatever.
But they're like, it's that I think we're back to fear. Like it's that fear of being rejected, excluded from the group. What if I don't have access anymore? What if I'm gonna end up being the odd one out? And not everybody, except for the game changers,
or removed,
love being the odd one out.
Yeah,
but it's like, and I guess we're back to, for some people too, fear will be a motivator.
Yeah.
So it's back to how we are differently wired.
Now, this is where, how is the fear driving you, right? Is it driving you in a very pragmatic way where all your actions are going to be very pragmatic to address that fear that you have? Or are you going to be very obsessive about that fear and want to do different or want to improve because you believe there's a better way? That is the interesting thing, is what drives you.
I think you just brought up another, the difference between fear that's external and my internal fears and trials and tribulations. Like if I feel that fear of, and I saw that in, I don't know if you watched, there was a series called Point Break about tennis players. And one of them said, when things go wrong during a tennis match, and I feel that I'm losing, fear kicks in. And so that's where I'm driven to change something and do better so that I don't lose. And that's the internal motivator. When fear acts as an internal motivator, if that works for you, okay, use it. But I rarely find that fear that's imposed externally. If somebody threatens you in any way, or you feel that external threat, I rarely find that that's a true motivator. It usually motivates that hiding that we were talking about.
Yeah. My eyes are going back up in my head, kind of noodling on that one. So what's right? So balancing the people-focused leadership, right? Kind of coming back to that. It's already 6 o'clock. I know we're gonna probably have to start.
It's past 6 o'clock. What do you mean?
No. And balancing results, is it possible? What say you? Let's round robin it.
Anything is possible. Everything is possible.
Of course you would say that. Doesn't surprise me. But what about it?
The balance, and is the balance. I can't say no. I can't say no. Because I gotta believe there's a better way, and and here it comes back to the who are we? We are here uncovering better ways. That we are uncovering better ways and of developing software, and which that's what I mean. But to believe that it's possible, and I think even you mentioned the Toyota example, right? That okay, you're a great manager. That's fine. And it's okay if you don't make. I'm not going to fire you if you don't make the target. And let's just get rid of targets. So, but then that comes. So yes, the balance. If I don't even know if it's balance. You think balance? You think either or, kind of. You think either or. I think that it's integration. I think that's more important. That it's if to integrate to be aware of who am I, so what's happening now, who am I being now, what do I do now, and being constantly aware of who are we, what's I'm looking at Roxana, I see your eyes there, and I see Veronica, I see you intent there, and then smile that I'm being aware of this moment, and I'm feeling okay, great. So what are we doing now? What's going to happen? So I want to let's try this and be excited about it and say and be that force of energy and that says, hey, you can come with me. You're not. It's fine. You're fine. And just to be that. I say it all the time, to show love for one another. And that love, that's love in the workplace. Oh my God, Ryan, you're not ever going to get a job if you say that. But I mean it in a very specific way. And this is, and I'll drop the virtual token back into our circle here, is that this love, as Harrison Owen said it, the open space discoverer, is love is challenge and love is acceptance. I accept you. You are here. We are here on this team together. We're playing this game together, and we all agree to the rules, and we're here doing it. And I accept you. Now, what are we going to do? Now, what are we going to do together? So, and that is the I love you. What are you going to do with your life thing? And so, to get to that point, it's possible, and it is. I think it's inevitable. So, yes, integrate, love each other.
And you just reminded me, one of the best things that I heard, and it was in the workplace, was when somebody said, hey, I want to look good, I want you to look good, I want us to look good. And that just you can't imagine the kind of conversation that you're having after this has been said. Or when we were working on a huge CRM project, which ended up being a flop, and the first thing that the person was in charge with leading that project, and he came into the meeting and said, all I can say is, I'm not going to say the word because we're live. But then everybody started laughing. Yeah, exactly. So everybody felt that a weight has been lifted from our shoulders, because that was addressed. Like, we all felt it. We all knew it. It was a horrible time for everybody on that team. And we just shared that moment before we actually started getting into fix mode. Okay, so now what do we do? But once we got there, we weren't pointing at each other. We were wondering, okay, so now what are we going to do about it? So it's possible, and we know it's possible. It's just, what do we do when we see that that's not happening, and when we feel powerless to address that element in the room?
All right, two for possible. Okay, Veronica, are you going to bring us down to earth?
No, I'm a game changer. That's ridiculous.
Thank you.
But I'm gonna dance with the space here, and when you say integration, my natural inclination is to I throw another word in the mix, is coexistence, because I don't want to force integration. I want to be able to live in both spaces and coexist. And when you talked about acceptance, that's acceptance, is knowing they're both going to be there. And it's okay for them to coexist. You have to learn how to coexist. It's the same thing with fear is going to always be there, but you have to learn how to live and coexist with fear, because fear will never go away. It starts to have a different light on what you do about it. And pain is always going to be introduced, because that's just the nature of our cycles. So for me, when we think about people, leader focused, trying to get back to the subject and results driven, it's really around coexistence and looking at what that means in the given moment. So if we think of I as an individual people leader, and thinking about what have I done to coexist in what's in front of me and what I can do, right? Choice. You have reasons why things happen, or you could be at cause for what happens. And so one of the things we always can do as human beings is ask ourselves, are we given reasons of what we cannot do, or are we at cause to actually be a part of it? So that is one thing. And then as we start to look at, are we, because most of us we're all three of us here together, so think of us as one good, happy, loving team, is what are we at cause, and what are we giving reasons to do something about it, right? So coexistence for me, that's the possibility, is asking what can we do that we are at cause to take action on. I always know there's always something. So that's the land of possibility for me, is we choose. We don't give reasons why we can't.
Well, when you're on stage playing, you can't just, if you play a claim, you got to play the next note. And you play 3 claims in a row, it doesn't matter that everyone else is going to be playing there. You don't want to be the person who no, stop the music, stop, no. And and to be with that. Thank you. I'm going to play some music that I wish I could play my own music, but again, we'd get we're not monetized anyway. I could probably play whatever I wanted, but I'm going to put some house music on. And okay. All right. So I'm going to invite you to the after party here in the space, and then we can kind of chill out. Is there anything either of you want to say that you haven't yet said?
I think we've just shown what yes and can turn into. And it's not to say that we all agreed with what each of us has said, but building on.
I love that.
Said. So yeah. That's what you made me think of, Ryan, when we just mentioned the music and riffing on the stage. Yeah.
But we're coming to a result. And I think that's what the beauty of it is when people come together, you can have results.
And there we have the mic drop. So I'll check with both of you in the after party and say goodbye, Veronica. Boop. Goodbye, Roxana. And goodbye. Thank you for the precious gift of your time and attention. I'm Ryan. This has been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me, and hopefully